And the opposite is also true of flow, in that you can actually teach your brain to basically be trying to multitask all the time. If you're constantly trying to do two things at once, your brain will just go, okay, I need to have random parts of me just firing at random times. So apparently, if you look at the brains of people who procrastinate a lot, just random parts of their mind will start firing up just at random times. So you're actually teaching yourself to be able to like focus less. Today is a little bit of a continuation of the other day, or of the last episode.
A literal continuation of the other day, because it's actually the next morning.
Yeah.
So for us, it's a direct continuation.
Yeah, the last two episodes was a 2-part sleepover party.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So many pillow fights were had.
But yeah, I don't think that you'll need to necessarily listen to the other one in order to get what we're saying today, but I would definitely recommend it. They complement each other very well. Yesterday, or the last episode, was all about procrastination and getting started with your work, and today we're getting into deep work and how to actually get what you need to do done while you're doing it.
Once you've started.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're having trouble starting with your work, then listen to the last episode. And once you do that, come right on back here and listen to this episode.
And then work, you lazy arse.
Oh, that's so true. It'll be like all the people like me who listen or watch productivity shit while they're procrastinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe after this, keep working. All right, so first off, deep work. It's got to be the best way to get the most important work done that I've heard of. What it is basically taking all the distractions that you usually have when you're trying to get stuff done, whether it be people coming and saying hi, or getting texts or notifications, or just having like the internet browser open somewhere and getting distracted on it. It's just trying to take all of those distractions and get rid of them so that you can focus for like a prolonged period of time and actually get the important stuff done.
And it's different than just like not getting distracted. Is there more to it than that, or?
I don't know. That's kind of the gist of it, is not getting distracted. You want to get rid of all the distractions and all the other stuff that you might be thinking about so that you can focus on the one thing, because at that point you can probably get into like a state of flow.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So when you said deep work, what, and you like explained what it was, what came to mind was a few days earlier, my girlfriend was talking about this concept that she heard about, I think from one of her psychology classes, entering a state of flow. That's exactly what she heard about. And she said it had something to do with like a perfect balance of like challenge and expertise, so that you just like aren't thinking about anything else except the task you're doing. She said like it often would be present if you're like well practiced at a sport and you're competing in it, something like that, or if you're playing music. That's the one, like sports and music, I think are where I can relate to that most. Like if I'm playing a piano song just from memory, then like there could be anything going on in the background and I totally would not notice. I would just be like playing it until the song's done. And same with like if I was in like a wrestling tournament, like if I'm in the middle of a match, there could be like anything going on. You know, the building could be burning down, but I wouldn't notice until I was finished, you know? So that's sort of what that sounded like to me.
Yeah, flow is a really cool concept that I haven't looked into enough. I've only watched like one YouTube video on it, but it's so fascinating because it's actually that more and more parts of your brain shut down, and it's only the parts that you need to do the current task and like basic survival stuff that are kind of left. So it's like powering or down or like going into sleep mode with a lot of your brain parts so that you have more energy to spend just on the parts that are completely focused on this task.
Yeah.
And apparently, while I was listening to the audiobook Deep Work, which I'm basing a lot of this episode on.
Who's that by?
Cal Newport. Link in the show notes. I think he wrote Digital Minimalism too, which I've covered before in the podcast. Oh yeah, and the opposite is also true of flow, in that you can actually teach your brain to basically be trying to multitask all the time. If you're constantly trying to do two things at once, your brain will just go, okay, I need to have random parts of me just firing at random times. So apparently if you look at the brains of people who procrastinate a lot, just random parts of their mind will start firing up just at random times. So you're actually teaching yourself to be able to like focus less if you're or if you're multitasking.
Focus on less.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, focus less if you're multitasking. Yeah.
Or just in general, because even if you try and do some like deep work, and this can be trained to be able to do deep work, but if you, or the first few times that you try and do it, your brain is just going to keep on just firing off at random parts, distracting you.
In my opinion, I'm not a physician, but multitasking is usually not the best way to go about things, like just in general.
But yeah, let's get into deep work. I've got a bunch of tips to go through on how to do it, and we can actually talk about flow some more too and how to try and induce that, because apparently there are like a few techniques you can use just to try and get yourself into that mindset.
Sounds like a hidden like kung fu technique. Some tricks to induce a state of flow.
Yeah, actually, I think it's seen a lot in like martial artists or like people who do extreme sports. So yeah. As well as some like specific tips for students, because I got a great anecdote from the book on how a very successful president used deep work when he was a student. So we'll get into that in a bit.
Okay.
All right. So first off, we covered this a little bit last time, but do you want to go over again how you get work done?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, me and Aiden go about work slightly differently. The way I generally accomplish tasks I need to do is I try to take a focused, I guess, but relaxed approach. So, like, I'll do a task I need to do, then I'll take a short break, like go for a walk or have some tea or something, and then I'll, like, do another task. Like, I try not to feel like I'm forcing myself. I try to just, at a gradual but steady pace, get stuff done. And, yeah, just, like, you know, really feel like I'm not forcing myself and, like, I'm doing other things with my day. But do what I need to do.
So you'll work for kind of like an hour or so at a time, you said, or it depends.
I don't really time it. It's just when a task gets done, usually is when I just like will take a break, or if I'm still feeling it, switch to another task. Very slow, not slow, but like relaxed but steady approach, I guess.
And do you do anything to try and get rid of distractions while you're working?
Yeah, I usually work in my room at my desk. I make sure that my phone isn't near me. Like, I put it, like, in another room or something. And I don't, like, have Facebook open in the back or anything like that. I'll maybe just have some, like, chill piano music going on. But that's pretty much the only other thing I have going on besides what I'm working at.
So when I try and get work done, it's usually, or recently, it's been at school. Yeah. And I'll sit down for very long periods of time often. Too long for my liking, but
Your butt gets sore?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, it can be like somewhere 2 to 4 hours, usually.
Holy. Yeah, I could not sit for that long.
It's a lot, but I sit down and I just try and cram it out. I would like to take more breaks. I just don't want to go through the effort of cleaning up my whole workstation, putting in my locker, going for a walk, then coming back and setting it all up again. I will do that, but like I'll take like a 3-hour block and then like walk for a little while and then come back and do another one or something like that. When I try and get rid of distractions, usually just being at school gets rid of some distractions, especially as opposed to being at home where it's just nonstop distractions of like other stuff that I could be doing, whether it be just relaxing or housework or doing a bit of exercise or whatnot.
I never get distracted by like, I'm never like, I could vacuum right now. Because I absolutely never want to do that.
Yeah, I do. Especially if I spend a lot of time at home, I'm like, oh my God, the dishes are just piling up. I need to do them. But when I'm at school, I don't see them. So I can ignore them for a bit and just like bulk do that task.
I guess that's why it's good in my room too. Because like I can't see the dishes that need to be done or the recycling that needs to be taken out or anything like that. Like my room's not got much in it. It's pretty like tidy, I guess.
That's true.
So then there isn't really much that I like need to do just from chilling here.
Yeah, we're in your room now and it's like reasonably minimal. I don't know. Like I find that concerning from a sleep point of view of like how you're not supposed to do anything else other than like sleep in your room.
Yeah.
Because then it just kind of confuses your mind because you come into your room and it starts thinking, okay, it's study time.
That's why I specifically work like at my desk. Because I heard about that. And some people I know actually do their work on their bed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that at all. I don't understand how they can do that. But I feel like that might definitely cause that issue if you're working on your bed.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like you'll like might get insomnia or something. For me, I've been lucky. I fall asleep like 5 minutes after my head hits the pillow every night. So
but yeah, no, I guess like every bit of separation from like that your brain can have for the different tasks to different locations is good. So like a separate room is obviously best, or even a separate building, like offices are like nice. But I mean, just having a desk is also an improvement.
Because all I do at my desk is work.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's not bad. At least if it's all work, it's not like relaxing or anything like that too. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing. And one of the interesting things is that with this, you really have to adapt it to your own lifestyle. So he actually went through a bunch of different types of deep work and how to like implement it in your life of different degrees of like ridiculousness.
Okay.
And like isolating yourself.
Does he say ridiculousness?
He does not, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he actually listed 4, the most extreme of which is monastic.
Just be an actual monk.
Essentially, or just isolate yourself as much as possible. He gave the example of, I think it was like a computer science prof or something, who didn't have any email or messaging or any of that. He would...
That's ironic.
Yeah, I know, right? He would get all of his communication by physical mail, and he would have an assistant sort through it, and anything urgent they would just give to him immediately. Okay. But otherwise, he'd process it and go through it every like 3 months.
What did he need to do so bad?
It was that periods of like concentration to understand these like complex computer science topics, and then he would write about them and try and explain them in a way that people who didn't have all their like months to try and figure it out could understand it.
Huh. That had better been a good book to be worth it.
Well, he was like writing book after book after book. Computer science profs are like the most, they publish so much. Would they do dozens in a year?
Holy.
Like books or like papers of some kind?
Wow.
Yeah. They're prolific.
No wonder they're monks.
Or at least this one is, yeah. So yeah, if you can do that, that is the most intense form of deep work. Just no distractions.
I believe that's actually how Bon Iver wrote at least, I think it's his first album. Mm-hmm. He just went out into a cabin in like Minnesota or something. He just rented it for like months and had just had his guitar and some musical instruments and some like writing implements and just like wrote the whole album. And like in that few months, just like that's where he was. I think a lot of musicians do that actually. The band Ween did that to write The Mollusk. They just rented this like seaside cottage for like 6 weeks and just had a bunch of recording equipment and wrote and recorded it just right there.
That is a very pro tip. That's something that Newport called the grand gesture.
Okay.
Was basically doing something grand, either like spending a lot of like money or time or something to create or to give yourself an environment to do the work in.
Yeah.
And he gave the example of J.K. Rowling, actually. Apparently for the 7th book, she just couldn't like get stuff done in her home office. There were like kids and people all over the place.
Yeah.
So she went and rented a room. She was just going to do a night at some like 5-star hotel in the middle of Edinburgh. I think he said it was like $1,000 a night or something. And it was like right down the street from the castle that she'd based Hogwarts off of.
Okay.
So it was like this really like fantastic place for her to like just separate herself and get the book done.
Yeah.
And she ended up spending, I think, like weeks there.
Holy.
Just pounding it out. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And apparently there are a lot of like authors or musicians or whatnot who will like just build a cabin like or something on their property. Just a specific place to go and like get their work done.
That makes sense. So yeah, if you've got the means, go to a new house.
Yeah. And it's just the fact that you've spent this money, you've taken this time, and you're going to this special location that again, it induces the flow because it just inspires you to work.
Yeah. And
to get it done.
I guess, yeah, you're not thinking about being somewhere else because you're in a pretty interesting place. So you're like just thinking about where you are and what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also, if you do go the route of spending a shitload of money, you're like, I better get some stuff done.
Yeah, you're like, this better not be a waste. I blew thousands on this.
Yeah, I better get this goddamn book done. I'm sure it was a good return on J.K. Rowling's investment.
Yeah, it seemed pretty all right.
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Yeah.
She's doing okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the grand gesture.
Same with Bon Iver. He's doing fine.
Another way that I've heard it done is, CGP Grey?
Yeah.
He'll take graycations every now and then.
Okay.
Which is where he'll just go and like stay in a hotel somewhere for like a weekend or a week and just work. And it is kind of funny. Like, I've heard him talk about tips and tricks for doing that. And he's like, okay, so when you're looking for the hotel, you have to pick the one with the best chair and desk.
What?
Because that's where you're going to be spending all day, every day.
Ugh.
And I mean, like, he goes and he is essentially either working, sleeping, or working out.
Okay.
Or I guess like maybe eating a little bit. He said like a pro tip for food was just to get a bunch of like eggs.
What the fuck?
And then like
only eggs?
just like boil them because it's a super quick like bunch of protein.
What does he need to do so bad?
Just writing his videos.
Jeez. Yeah, I could never do a job that requires me to focus that much just sitting at a desk. That's why I'm in environmental science.
Man, I kind of want that in my life though.
Really?
Like just a regular or like periodic, maybe like weekend or like 3-4 days by myself, say like in a hotel room. That would be sick. Just to like get stuff done, plan stuff out, or prioritize, you know?
I would get complete cabin fever. Like, I need to go outside for at least like a few hours every day.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like you go take a walk or something.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, sitting at a desk, not for me.
You'd probably like Hurley Days a little bit more.
Hurley Days?
Yeah, I'm getting really into the Cortex weeds right here.
Okay.
Do you know that podcast, Cortex?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so it's CGP Grey and Mike Hurley, and they do it together, and it's all on a lot of productivity stuff.
Yeah.
And Mike is a lot less extreme than Grey is in a lot of ways, and his version of that is like a Hurley Day, which he usually just takes a couple days at the end of a vacation or something before he flies back to get a little bit of work done. But he'll like go and like find nice restaurants around and like go for walks during it. And,
okay,
like,
that sounds sick. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time.
Yeah, okay, that's what I could do.
Yeah. Whereas Grey's sounds a lot more like just locking yourself in a dark room and getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Eating your like boiled eggs.
Yeah, like I would do that maybe once if I like, for whatever reason, absolutely had to get something done. There was no if, and, or but about it. Mm-hmm. But I would not enjoy it. So I'm not gonna impose that on myself.
It sounds so good though. Like just take the time away from everything and just get like some planning done, a little bit of work done. That'd be so good. That feels like it would just add so much to life. All right, but that's the grand gesture.
Yeah.
Back into the types, I guess. After monastic, the slightly less extreme version is bimodal, which I guess is actually what we were just talking about. That's like going between periods of just intense deep work, like all day, all the time, and your regular shallow work where you're like just kind of distracted, open to like people taking up your time.
Okay.
All that stuff.
Now, what's the purpose of that?
So, what was his example of that? So that's like, say, if you have a job that like you need to be at 4 or 5 days a week, but then you can take the other days, or if you want to take like a week every month or 2 months or whatnot, just to like have a period of intense like deep work. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. And so
it's like it's not completely cutting yourself off from the outside world because some people like need that to like have a job.
Like that's sort of what I imagine the grand gesture would be, because you wouldn't do that all the time.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, a grand gesture could even be something you do once, like J.K. Rowling finishing her book. Okay. It doesn't have to be regular, but it can be.
Oh, okay, but then bimodal is like in a periodization.
Yeah, it's a more like regular version of it. Yeah, a grand gesture is like one-time thing. I really got to get stuff done.
Yeah. So you probably wouldn't rent a hotel room every week or something just to do work.
I mean, maybe some people would.
Maybe if you have the money, but
yeah,
the bimodal would just be like somewhere that's not as expensive, that's more accessible, but you're just focusing real hard.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just somewhere or like some way that you can block out all distractions wherever you go, be it like a hotel room, or if you can do it some way in your own house. Like
Okay.
if that's enough for you to block out most of the outside distractions. And then I think the most reasonable type of deep work that he listed was rhythmic, which is getting
You just dance.
100%. Yeah, you
do rhythmic gymnastics while you're doing your accounting.
You do a little jig before you get work, and that gets you into the flow state.
Okay, great. There's a secret dance that can be learned in order to enter the flow state.
It's like a rain dance, but for flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, rhythmic is like having like a period of deep work every day. Like say 60 to 90 minutes or something.
So it's
in
like a habit.
the morning. Yeah, exactly. It's
Or
just like
a routine.
Yeah, it's for people who say have a 9 to 5 or have to actually interact with the outside world like every day.
Those peasants.
Yeah, exactly. But still want to like get some good stuff done. So I've heard that can be also good for authors or like maybe academics who still have like a regular job they need to do, but they still need to write. So they get like 60 to 90 minutes of intense, like focused writing every day.
Okay, yeah, that sounds more accessible. I feel like a lot of people in those, this is my life for like 24 hours or whatever, like what I do in a day videos.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of them have that. Like I remember in Mark Cuban's, he said that he spends like, I think it was like an hour or something right after he wakes up in bed, just like on his work phone, doing like replying to all the emails and all the stuff he doesn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just does it before he gets out of bed.
Hmm.
So, and that sounds like it's the same sort of thing.
I guess, yeah. That's
Sounds
kind of
like
wacky.
Sounds like a bad time, but
That sounds awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. To each his own, but all right.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how much your life depends on emails. That's true. Like I've been talking mostly about writing in this, but it depends on what's important to you that you need to have some intense focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like for us, it would be more like studying or like getting assignments done.
Yeah. I mean, we could say that, yeah, the grand gesture is each of us going to each other's places and recording multiple podcasts. That's what that would be.
Actually, yeah, that does. I feel that. This is honestly some of the most fun I have. Like I kind of enjoy the travel. Like I was sitting in Starbucks when I had like a transfer between Go buses.
Yeah.
Just like smiling at myself going, I'm on a business trip.
Oh, true.
Nice.
I gotta reach Toronto. And,
Yeah, seriously, man.
put up those business expenses.
But yeah, this is just like we're taking so much time to like come out and specifically do this and get this done.
So we're definitely gonna record good shit because we're like, well, it's been this whole trip. We better.
Yeah, exactly. This got to be good stuff.
Yeah. And it is.
Yeah, and then I'll get into one last type, and then we can talk about the student story.
Okay.
Okay, so one last type that he mentioned was the journalistic type of deep work,
Okay.
which is apparently not for novices because it's essentially taking a period of deep work whenever you have the time to, or whenever you have the free time to.
Okay. So that sounds like what most people try to do.
Yeah, exactly. Which is specifically not for people just beginning because especially when you're just beginning, you're not used to it. You can't really switch your brain into deep work mode very quickly. But journalists are required to do that at like the flip of a coin because they need to like suddenly start writing and like meet a deadline.
Okay.
So they're used to that. Yeah.
Sounds very Hunter S. Thompson. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He was the dude who, I believe he came up with guerrilla journalism methods, but he had like, I guess his was more of the daily routine one. Like for instance, he joined a biker gang for like a year, and it was just like to write about it. And then so I guess he would definitely need to do that when he wasn't out doing gang stuff. He would just need to write whenever that would be.
That makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, that's another way to do it. That sounds.
Join a gang.
There you go. That's another grand gesture. If you've already joined a gang, you gotta get some good writing in.
There you go.
Yeah, pro tip, just join a gang. Your work will be so much better.
Just legal disclaimer, don't join a gang. Don't do it.
Please
it's just
don't.
a joke. So legal disclaimer done. Anyway.
Just an overarching disclaimer. This is not legal or medical advice.
You don't have to follow what we say. We're just two people talking.
We're just a couple of standard humans talking to a bunch of humans.
Shameless plug for our own thing that we're creating right now.
Can you plug your own thing that you're doing right now? Is
Patreon.
True. Yeah, okay. Yeah, plug the other aspects of it.
You were saying that like this isn't for
Yeah. No, partly because, well, mostly because it's just really hard to get your brain into that mode, but also that if you don't like schedule in advance, especially if you have a very busy schedule, you're just not going to do it.
Okay. I mean, fair enough.
Yeah. And I like something like the rhythmic quite a bit because that is just a habit that like, okay, it's this time of the day, I have to get some work done.
Mm-hmm.
I like that as like a cue for your brain.
Yeah, I would just like incorporating it in your routine. For instance, like if you had class that started at 11 every day and you woke up at like 8:30, then you could just, your daily routine, you could be like, drink some water, work for like an hour on whatever, and then just like, and then you've got that done for the day.
All right. Speaking of students, I've been teasing it a bit. Let's get into the student story. So you know Theodore Roosevelt, the lad.
Who's Theo? I don't know Theo, but yeah, I'm quite close with old Teddy.
Yeah. So apparently he had like dozens of interests that he was pursuing all the time.
Yeah.
But he somehow still managed to be a pretty good student, like pretty decent, like above average.
Okay.
And apparently his strategy was that he would take all of the hours between 8:30 and 4:30. So that's like 8 hours.
Yeah.
And then subtract class and lunch and like a workout for him.
Yeah.
And then he would dedicate all the rest of that time just solely to getting his schoolwork done. And he would do it with like intense focus, as in like he has to get the stuff done in this period of time.
4:30.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that sounds great. Like, who likes working after 4:30? After 5? Nobody.
Yeah, exactly. And then he'd have all the rest of his time for all of his like dozens of other interests.
Like political power.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
That's one I could actually really get behind.
Yeah, I know. I really like that as well.
Because I like to definitely not work. Like working in the evening, one of my least favorite things to do. I don't do it that often, but sometimes I need to, and I'm like, ugh, gross.
Yeah, it's always disgusting.
So that's something I'll definitely keep in mind. Take specific time, and like you have to get it done before 5. Or because then even if you don't, you'll get most of it done. So
pretty much, yeah. And I think it's like a really good version of the rhythmic for students because, you know, not every day is the same. Yeah. But it's still, you're taking that 8-hour block and whatever free time there is. That's school time.
That's when you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite nice actually. And also so many students have such bad habits of like losing so much sleep and stuff. And
yeah, this
would generally probably reduce that because you're working during the day when you're probably awake. And then leaving the rest of the time to do whatever activities you want to do. And then
this would probably be very helpful for a lot of people to try and do that. Also, the fact that if you set a goal like this, say this assignment has to be done in the next hour, set it to be like slightly less than you normally would, because then you're really like pushing yourself to get through it. And in order to meet that goal, you have to intensely focus. You can't like afford the distractions.
Yeah.
So by limiting himself to that 8-hour window of like getting all the stuff done in there, he really is just pushing himself, and it's like forcing himself to get into it.
I like the balance too, because sure, he might have gotten top of his class if he did from like 8:30 to 7 or something, but then he wouldn't have been able to like do as many things that aren't school, and like maybe then he wouldn't, you know, have been as successful.
Yeah,
it's important to keep well-rounded and do stuff. Do good work when you're working, but you know, it's important to do other things with your life as well.
Yeah, definitely. And the interesting thing about deep work in specific is that apparently if you're new to it, well, if you're absolutely new to it, it takes like 10 or 20 like sessions to start really getting into like good deep work and like a good state of mind and like used to it. But like as a novice, still like more or less beginning, you can generally only do like an hour a day of like really concentrated good work.
Just because your brain gets fatigued, or?
Yeah, I think so. And it's just not able to concentrate for like long periods of time.
Okay.
But that even when you become like an expert at it, you can only do like 4. Not like consecutive, like with maybe some like breaks in there, but like total of 4 in a day.
Drive up the amount of hours by drinking more coffee?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's too bad.
So it shows you there's only like really so many like good hours of work in a day. Mm-hmm.
So don't try to work for 12 hours a day, you animal.
Yeah. Which is something that, I mean, it's so cool that the book is confirming this, but something I've noticed in my own life is that the first couple hours are always generally the best.
Yeah.
Like by far. And that by the end of it, like these like tiny tasks are taking like an hour or something because I'm just exhausted.
Yeah.
He also had like a couple tips on like the mechanics of how to do it. So things like we talked about, have like a place dedicated to deep work.
Yeah.
So something like the desk works, or like if you have a specific place you can go that just gets your mind into the mode of like, okay, I'm about to do some intense work for this period of time, for this hour, 2 hours, what have you.
That probably is a good idea also. Not stay in that place for like 6 hours, because if you can't do that much deep work, because then it would just sort of break the association. I would imagine, because I know like just a lot of students here, they'll like be like, okay, I'm gonna go to the library for like 9 hours, and they'll literally stay there for like 9 hours. Like they'll maybe like, you just get up to use the washroom, but that's pretty much it. But I feel like you're just banging your head against the wall at that point. Like in the first few hours, you've used all your brain power, and then you're just slowly like sapping all the energy you have while not doing that great work.
Yeah, what if you had a bunch of different locations, say around campus, for like different types of work? Like what would the most intense work be? Something like studying. You have a specific place that you study, say in the library, but then you have like a computer lab or other place that you go to do some assignments. Then maybe like another place that you might go to if you just need to like crank out some emails.
There you go.
Yeah.
You might need to report back on this.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I might try that.
And then you won't get weird looks for coming back.
Yeah, because I'll just go to another place.
What sort of things like do you have to do when you do deep work, or when you try?
I mean, there's of course the schoolwork, things like writing up an assignment, or I've been doing a lot of editing work lately. Be it like editing photos for class or personal, or editing videos. Like I threw together a promotional video the other day. That took a while.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so just sitting in front of the Mac, with headphones on, just going, editing, be it videos or like graphics or photos or all that stuff. That's a lot of it. Or sometimes it'll be like a speech. I've had to write a bunch of those lately.
Okay, because all this stuff just in my brain, it's pretty much applying only to schoolwork, but that's pretty much it. So like that doesn't require much creativity. It's just like try to know this stuff. I feel like that also obviously makes a difference. What exactly you're trying to do.
That's true. Yeah, that really determines the environment. Like for a lot of my work, I need like some kind of computer, but then I also need to figure out ways to block off things like the internet or whatnot. Yeah. Or I've been feeling like I need to make a checklist for how to start so that I can open up the things that I need and then turn off my phone or put it onto Forest or something.
And with a lot of that work as well, I feel like yours, it makes sense that you're working out of home, because what you're trying to do for like if you're writing a speech or if you're like making a video or something, you're trying to get what's in your brain out into your computer. So you're like trying to stimulate creativity. So it like you're not like totally comfortable, I guess, in this place, but that probably is fine. Versus like for me, I like to be in a place I'm totally comfortable, because what I'm trying to do is get stuff into my brain from the pages or from the computer for a lot of my stuff. So
yeah, I guess. Oh.
I feel like that could make a difference. Because if I was trying to like write or something, like write a book, I probably would leave my desk. Like I would probably work somewhere other than home.
Okay. Just
because like, you'd get like random little bits of inspiration or like little bits of creativity from just being around people.
That's true, actually. That is another thing that you talk about it is like the use of other people or going and getting inspiration.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the big things for the bimodal method is like you're coming back to society and getting inspired and talking with people, and that really benefits what you're doing, and then you can go back and do your like deep work.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought about putting stuff into your brain versus taking it out, and like if there's a difference between that. I don't know. Something about what you're saying sounds kind of right, but I can't or explain it to myself.
Because I'm smart.
No, that's obviously not it.
Just feel out the situation where you have the best results. Stick with that.
I like planning at home or like prioritizing, because that's so great, because then I could get out my like decent sized whiteboard and just write on that and have like 10 pieces of paper going in my computer.
Whole
and,
conspiracy
like,
thing going on.
Honestly, and then my spreadsheets and shit too for the whole thing. Yeah, it's a good time, but yeah, that I find that's best at home just because I'm comfortable spreading out over the space.
Okay.
One thing that I would like to eventually do that I obviously can't do now because I am a poor student is like get an office away from home. Somewhere like within walking distance of my home, say like 10 minutes away, so that I could go back and forth, but somewhere just far enough away in a new location where I could just go and have a space that's my own that I can spread out over and like use.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds...
Maybe I could lock and just like leave everything in place, go for a walk, and then come back. That would be that's the ideal in my head. Yeah.
As long as you only use it for work. Like
That's
if you
true.
break the association, it might just be another place to goof off. But
Yeah. I mean, with all this stuff, you can always train yourself to get better. I mean, that's something that you have to do when you get started, just through practice.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's always time to turn it around, but you do have to actively
Start the day over.
Ooh, that's true. Yeah, that's a hot tip.
We'll call back to our procrastination episode. So did you have any other strategies?
Oh, actually, yeah, there were a few others. One of the interesting ones was that he said that you should really have a workday shutdown routine, which is basically just a way to actually end the day. And a lot of people, they'll go, oh, wait, I should go check my like email or something in the evening, just like really quickly, you know?
Yeah.
But then because of that, it's training your mind to say, okay, but even though I said the workday was done, it's not really, so I can't relax yet.
So don't let work and distractions bleed together, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have a routine that ensures that all of your possible distractions are covered, like I think what he did was that he'd go through and check his email and make sure there wasn't anything urgent, go through and like check his calendar for the next 2 days and make sure there isn't like any deadlines creeping up on him.
Yeah.
I think maybe one or two other things, like take all the tasks that he came up with throughout the day that he hadn't done and like put them into his system. And then how he actually ended it was by just saying out loud, workday shutdown.
Okay. That's pretty good.
I think it was workday shutdown complete or something like that. Yeah.
A little robotic, but
I don't know. I like it actually, of just actually like telling yourself, okay, we're done.
Something like whatever Theo Roosevelt did at 4:30 p.m.
Maybe, yeah, actually.
He probably did something. He probably just like put his books away.
Bully.
And like, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just of having that actual separation between your work and like your off time.
Like it's important to, when you're doing other stuff, do other stuff. Don't be like constantly thinking about work.
Mm-hmm.
That applies more for like when you actually like have a job, I find. Like to leave your job at work.
Yeah.
And when you come home, do other things. Like don't be a workaholic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, it also does, or it should apply to students. It's just not as obvious.
Yeah.
I think students are very similar to entrepreneurs or people who are self-employed in that the work can take 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You don't have any hard start or stop times because all time could theoretically be working time, but it shouldn't.
Yeah, so many people will like, pull like all-nighters to do like schoolwork or something, but because they're just letting their like entire life just be school time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you have to have dedicated time to do other stuff.
I think that probably gets a little bit easier for people who do have some extracurricular commitments, be it like some kind of sport thing or a club or two, just because then you have other stuff that you have to manage and you realize, okay, I have to get my shit together at least a little bit.
Yeah.
So people with a little bit more commitments inherently start doing that a little bit better, though they still
imagine so.
Aren't quite where
Either
they'd
that
like to be.
or you've completely fallen off, like, and it's just not working at all. You one or the other.
Oof.
Yeah.
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
And one other tip, I guess, that I had was that he talked about tracking both like the output that you get from these deep hours of work, as well as the amount of time that you spend in deep work. Like his specific example was that he'd put like a mark down whenever he did like an hour of deep work. And then when he'd get a breakthrough because he was working through some kind of like proof or something, he'd like circle it and he'd see how many hours he'd actually need to put in order to get to each stage or to get one step like farther in his work.
Are you saying if you don't measure it, you don't manage it?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Another callback.
And it was kind of interesting because apparently it was a lot longer to get to a breakthrough than he'd thought. Like he needed a lot more time of just dedicated sitting there like working with the problems.
That can relate to studying in that you probably need more time than you think to actually know it. But yeah, just like it's not just trying to get it all known the day before the exam.
Yeah, I mean like it can sometimes work. It just doesn't stick with you past the exam.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the only other thing that was really talked about was like trying to develop a good mind or like train yourself. One of the things, or it was just generally that in the rest of your life, you need to try and stop being so distracted all the time. So we did like cover things like social media and all that stuff, and that can be very distracting, and that it's probably best even like during the work day or during the rest of your day to like schedule times where you can be distracted, where you can use these things.
Okay. I like that a lot because I feel like through like multitasking in whatever way, people at least right now have a very large tendency to like want to like switch all the time, and like even if you're not doing work, I think it's just you should focus on where you are and what you're doing.
And that helps. Just again, like we talked about at the beginning, getting your multitasking mind to go away and get a little bit more used to getting into the flow state.
That's one reason why if you are someone who's ever texted me, I'm not a very good texter because I don't like to look at my phone a lot. I find that like that just makes me think about other stuff that I'm not working on or that I'm not working on right now. Or that I'm not like focusing like currently in my proximity. Like I prefer to just think about like where I am and what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, which is so nice because honestly, you're the person that I probably prefer to or like texting the most.
Aw.
Just because I know that you're not going to respond right away and you don't really care when I text you because you'll see it when you see it.
Yeah.
So it's like if I just have a thought, I can just send it to you and like get it done. I don't have to think about when I should send it to you.
Yeah.
And I can just do it right away. And also because you're terrible at responding, I'm also terrible at responding, so I don't feel bad.
Yes, somebody gets it.
Yeah, so it's so nice.
Yeah, with that texting thing, that's exactly like sometimes I'll see a text, but I'm like I want to think about what I'm gonna say. Like it'll be like, hey, what do you want to do Saturday night? I'll be like, I'll see it, but I'll like think about it. I'll be like, what do I want to do Saturday night? So I might respond like later. But
like,
yeah,
as long as you actually do respond within like I don't know 2 days.
Yeah. Somebody gets it.
Yeah, it's so nice. Especially like some people just get upset if you don't respond like immediately, which is so odd.
That like if you need an immediate response, call. You know?
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't call me because it won't work. But
fair enough. Like your phone's broken, or
oh, I can't accept calls. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that sucks. Don't call Aiden, everyone. Just don't call him. You can't. Yeah. But
I can make calls, but can't accept them.
That's kind of a power move.
It is actually.
That's Brad Pitt from Fight Club. That was his whole thing. He's like, I don't take call. Like he like the narrator called him, and then it went through, and then he called him right back. He's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I don't accept calls. I just make calls.
Oh man, that is actually entirely what I do every time. Because like people will call me and then I'll like see that they're calling, but then I can't answer them. So I have to like wait and then call them back. So I should just play that off as a power move.
Yeah,
that's good.
Like, yeah, no, I just I make my own decisions. I don't let anybody call me.
It's like dick move, but I agree with the philosophy of taking your own priorities into your own hands.
Yeah. I mean, don't be like Brad Pitt from Fight Club.
Yeah, no. That one specific aspect. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe. No, probably not.
Don't be like him, though.
Don't be like Brad Pitt.
Well, no.
Just in general.
I mean,
I don't know.
Say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never
Maybe
met
he's
him.
all right.
Might be, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We've covered a lot of stuff. I had one other thing in here, which was productive meditation.
Ooh.
Which sounded really interesting, which is why I wrote it down.
Sounded a little counterintuitive.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
But I think the idea of meditation is to be present with yourself all the time and like see how you're feeling. But I think productive meditation, it's being present with what you're thinking about. So the example he went is like going on a walk and trying to think through a problem that you're trying to work on. So it's basically just throughout the entire walk, you're just going back and trying to run it through your head and figure out and solve the problem. So it's still being present kind of, but it's like, yeah, but it's training your mind once again to focus on the task at hand.
And I can always get behind just like go take a walk.
Yeah. So it's like taking like work productive stuff and health productive stuff and combining it, which is really cool.
It sounded like at first, you ever watch Silicon Valley?
No, I haven't.
Well, there's this one part where the dude is trying to come up with like the name and mission statement of a new company. So he goes out to the desert and takes a bunch of shrooms. That's what I first thought of when he said productive meditation. It's like some corporate guy going out to like the desert on shrooms, just like trying to solve a work problem.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's not what it is.
No, not quite.
Yeah. Okay, fair.
But yeah, that is productive meditation, and that is deep work, more or less. If you guys want to know more, definitely suggest checking out, link in the show notes to the book. So if you can check it out on Amazon, it is really good. It's got a lot of good tips in there and delves into, slightly more detail than we go into, or slightly other examples than we go into. But yeah, it's good stuff. I think a lot of people could benefit from trying to do it. Again, at least like, something rhythmic, like an hour or something every now and then.
And, giving it a try is the important part.
That's true, yeah. And again, you're not going to probably see much results for a while. He said it takes like a dozen times, but just to like weeks. Train your mind to get into it, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something to consider. See what different types are good for you. But yeah, Indeed. Good stuff. I don't know. You said you wanted to maybe try the Roosevelt method. Anything else?
That is one I could... That's the main one that I would get behind. Just like impose a sort of deadline, not because it actually has to be done, but just because that's when the only... Like, you want to work during this time of the day and you want to not work during this time of the day. Mm-hmm. That's something I can totally get behind. So I might actually try that out like tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. Monday.
Yeah. Honestly, that was the one that jumped out to me as well. Some kind of schedule like that. That would be really good.
We're both students, that's why.
Yeah, no, I mean, that 100% makes sense. That was a great example. When he like started talking about it, I was like, yes, hell yes. This is going to be great for the podcast.
And that is deep work. So now, give it a go. Or if it's like Sunday or something, give it a go tomorrow.
Look, we know that you're in the middle of procrastinating right now.
Probably.
We can tell.
We can smell it.
And I just want to tell you that really the trick is to get it done.
Just do it.
Take the strategies that you've learned about over these past few hours, however long these end up being, and go get some work done.
Yeah. At least give it a start.
Yeah. Give it a shot. Give it a try. Give it a good old-fashioned college try.